If you have said to yourself, I should write that, or if someone has said to you, you should write that, then I'm talking to you because you need to write. And that's why you're tuned in to yWrite. Hi, welcome to yWrite. I'm your host, Angela Grout, and I'm so glad that you tuned in today. I have a very special show today with a very good friend of mine who wrote a book, and we met at the Springfield Library years ago when we were both doing some author talks at an author event. So I want to tell you a little bit about my friend Emily. Emily is an author, teacher, and licensed Christian minister. She's a graduate of the Colorado Theological Seminary, and she earned a degree in creative writing at UMass. She has a really cool podcast that we're going to talk about, and I love the title. It is Living Your Holiest Hot Mess Life. She also, on Instagram and on Facebook, she does something special every morning, and we're going to talk about that today and her book. So I want to welcome to the show Emily Harrison.
Hi, Angela. Thank you.
Emily, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, we talk a lot messaging and things like that, but we haven't seen each other in quite a long time.
Since before COVID.
Yeah. So I want to share with the audience, how we met. We were at the Springfield Central Library, hosted an event for authors who had written books. Right. I was actually releasing April Rain that day. Yes. And, we all have our little tables, and you're across the way. And, the spirit just gravitated me over to you. I'm like, I need to meet this woman. Like, you radiate, you glow. I mean, your beauty just is inside, outside.
Thank you. That's Jesus.
And when I walked over, I see you wrote a book called Teaching Through the Tough Times. And I have a lot of friends who are teachers, a lot of teachers in my family. And, I'm just kind of grazing over at the table like people do when they're at book fairs and things, and you're talking to someone, and I see that it's devotions, prayers, and scriptures for today's education. So, we met. I bought the book. I love this book.
Oh, praise God.
I love this book. I mean, you have chapters that just really touch home for, I think, everyone. It's not a religious book. You're not teaching a religion. No. But you're communicating prayers for everyone in the school system.
Yeah, because we all need it.
I love it. Like, you're praying for your students. There's a prayer in there for the principals. There's a prayer in there for the janitor. I mean, just, little thoughtful tidbits of wisdom. And, this is what kind of brought us together. Right. But through the years, a lot more has happened. So I want to really ask what made you say, I have to put this on the page?
I was looking for it. I was in the bookstore, I was teaching, I was stressing out, and I wanted a book of prayers for teachers. And there wasn't one. And I was walking through Morningstar Christian Bookstore, which is a local bookstore. Yeah. And I was walking around, and there wasn't one. And God very clearly said, because you have to write it. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not. Nope. And then years later, God gave it to me. He just spoke it all to me, and I just typed it all up.
I know that feeling. Let me tell you, I have sat in prayer many days going, why am I writing this book? Why am I writing a murder mystery that I don't really like to read murder mystery? Like, why am I doing this? And it was that voice of saying, well, if not you, who? Yeah.
It's so true.
And it was like, oh, really? I and then you're penning like crazy.
Right.
And it's like, okay, I'm penning, I'm doing this. And, being able to trust that inner voice, that inner guidance can be, a spiritual and emotional and mental struggle for a lot of people. You are a licensed Christian counselor.
I am.
So, you obviously have a lot of experience with these kind of struggles and helping people, and obviously yourself. Tell me how that helped with writing this and your own prayer life.
Okay, that was a lot, Angela. I'm trying to unpack
Sorry.
the whole question. No, it's okay. It's okay. So I'm trying to think what came first, if I wrote the book before I was licensed or not. I don't know. I'd have to really think about that timeline. I think it was around the same time.
Okay.
Because if I look back over it, yes, I think I wrote it right after I became licensed.
Okay.
I'm trying to do the math in my head.
I know, don't. So around the same time.
Okay, around the same
Obviously, you were being called.
Right.
And you wanted to find out more.
Right. And so I was a licensed minister. I became a licensed minister at the same time. I became a clinical Christian counselor, and I must have written the book right after that. And it was interesting because the process was so simple, it was almost laughable because I had told God I don't want to do this, and God said, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And I remember I would sit after school for a couple hours every day or for a half an hour, whatever time I could carve out, because, you know, teachers, counselors were all like headless chickens all day long. And I would reread it later, and I'd have no memory of writing it, like at all. I'd say, "Oh gosh, that was really good."
Yeah. I have a lot of poetry like that, and I've been on a poetry whim for the last like 2 weeks, and I'm like, wake up in the morning because I'll jot it down. And I'm like, oh, when did I write that? Oh yeah. And then I'm like, did I write that? Was that a dream?
And it was interesting too because when the publishing company picked it up, and I was getting an editor, I'd never really had someone really tear apart what I'd written, probably not since college when I was a writing student.
Yeah.
And that was so subjective because that was really just another writing student.
Right.
But this was someone who really knew what they were doing. And so I trusted the changes they made. I loved the changes they made. They were not catastrophic. They were helpful. They were insightful. And the editor that I had, she really got my voice. She got what I was trying to do.
Oh, I can hear your voice in here. So I mean, and you know, like I said, I bought the book that day. We talked for, you know, maybe 10 minutes or so. I had a nice connection. And I'm, you know, coming home and I'm reading it and I'm like, I can hear you, you know? It's like, you know, I mean, here's a chapter that's on nurses. You know, school nurses are some of the most underappreciated people in the school systems. I didn't realize how hard they worked until I became good friends with 2 of them. Like, it's a personal story that you're relating, and then it goes into the prayer, you know, that everybody and anybody can say.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, there is Christianity. I mean, it's definitely Christian. I mean, you're all, you know, all about Jesus. All about Jesus. Thank you, Lord Jesus. But, you know, I'm Catholic. I'm, you know, I have strong faith. I learned it through the Catholic Church. Are you Catholic? Are you Christian? Tell us a little bit more. Why did you study theology?
So people ask me, what am I? And I say I'm a Christian. And I say I'm just a girl who loves Jesus because I'm 100% Jewish by birth, both sides of my family, all the way back to the beginning of time, supposedly. And when I was about 25, I just fell in love with Jesus. I had been seeking something more in a relationship with God my whole life, and I didn't really know what I was looking for until I found it. And I said, oh, it was you, Jesus. I was looking for you. And he became my very best friend. And I don't know, we've just been in love ever since.
That's so nice.
So in to answer the question about the degree in studying theology, I was at a place in my life where I knew I wanted to go back to school. And I felt pulled in 2 directions. I didn't know if I should go get a master's in divinity or if I should go get a counseling degree because I knew God was calling me towards both directions. And then I found out about Colorado Theological Seminary's clinical Christian counselor degree, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is...
Sounds right.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was everything all in one. Now, it wasn't exactly a master's in divinity, and it wasn't exactly all counseling, but it was just the perfect marriage of what I was looking for. Yeah,
you know, I think a lot of people out there understand like God's call to do something, and you know, when you just have that drive to say, I want to do something better or bigger, I want to learn, and I know I have a purpose or a passion, and you know, finding out I was going to be a writer was not. I mean, and I'll say that I was a florist for 33 years. And if you ever said, oh, you know, 8 years old, you're going to grow up and be a florist, I'd be like, no, I'm not. Like, I wanted to be a rockette. That's not working with flowers. So, you know, you get this path given to you. And it, you know, again, we have free will, whether we take it or not.
Absolutely.
I loved my career as a florist. You know, I love writing. But telling me, oh, you know what? You know, by the time you're X amount of age. I won't share that right now, no. You know, by the time you're this age, you're going to have, you know, 4 published books. You're going to have another one. You're going to be working on plays. I would have been like, yeah, no, I don't think that's where my life is headed. And, you know, you have to trust, you know. And I actually did look into, my father studied with theology, and I looked into the School of Divinity, and I actually looked into, you know, being like a death doula. I know.
Oh, you'd be so good at that.
I do think I would enjoy something like that. I mean, I know it sounds a little bit morbid, but, you know, to prepare someone.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, unfortunately, we're not getting out of this world alive.
Nope, we're definitely not.
You know,
it's one guarantee, right?
And I mean, I have the patience, I think, enough to sit with someone, especially if they're scared or worried, to be able to reassure them and say, you know what, it's okay.
And what a blessing, too. And even people that wouldn't have a relationship with the Lord, if you could help them get that peace that comes from, we know where we're going. I'm not afraid to die. I'm sure you're not afraid to die.
No.
We're not pushing it to have.
No, I'm not. No. I say I'm living to 107.
Oh my goodness.
Might be the weight I get to, but I like it to be the age. My goal is 107.
Angela, that's great. But I love that we have that peace. You know, people always ask me, like, are you afraid to die? Because I work with middle school students, so they ask the big questions, right? Oh. And I always say no. And then I actually get a chance to explain to them why. Yeah. You know, people think you can never talk about.
Yeah, no.
But you can.
I think it's important to talk about it. And, you know, we have spirit within us that, you know, people don't see.
Right.
And I always explain it when I'm teaching my classes about, you know, like, can you see my thoughts? Do you see my heart beating? Do you see the breath going in? Do you believe that that's all happening?
Absolutely.
Well, that's faith.
Right.
You know, and it's like, and that's the spirit within us that once the vessel is gone, the spirit lives on.
It absolutely
does. It definitely lives on. And, you know, I always say, like, you know, my father will say, well, you better spend your money because you can't take it with you.
You can send it on ahead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You can invest it in the kingdom. I love that.
But, you know, I just say, like, when you do leave this planet, you know, Earth, this experience, the things you leave behind are how you made people feel.
Absolutely.
So if someone has that feeling of, you know, you made them feel good, it's going to make you feel good, too.
Absolutely.
And that's love. That's what goes on forever. So, all right, we could talk about this for hours. I got to switch the subject because I really want to talk about your podcast.
Oh, yes. That was another thing Jesus said I had to do that I was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
I mean, it's just for this time in life, people have hectic lives.
Yeah.
People be like, oh, I don't have time to pray. Oh, I'm not going to, you know, Catholics, I can't sit and do a rosary all day. I mean, come on, I can do a rosary in 4 minutes. Like, it's not that long. But at the same time, you know, you have the book that, I mean, you can randomly open it, you know, and there's a prayer. Lord, I'm so grateful that you see fit to call us to be obedient to our leaders. I mean, there's a whole prayers of this. We open the Bible, there's the prayers or the Torah or whatever. Right. But you have a podcast that, I mean, 5 minutes every day. 5 minutes. People, you can log on, listen to our podcast in the car. You can 5 minutes, put it on while you're in the shower.
That's what I always tell people. I was just going to say that.
Put it on when you're in your shower.
In the shower.
And the title, of course, Living Your Holiest Hot Mess Life.
Yes.
How'd you come up with that title?
Okay, so first, Jesus said, you're going to do a podcast. And I was like, absolutely not. I feel like some of the biggest moments in my life.
We deny it a lot, right?
Oh
you hear the calling and you're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
Well, there's a parable that Jesus says in the Bible where he says, like, one person... there's 2 sons, and the father goes to them and tells one to go do something, and he's like, absolutely, sure, right away, and then he doesn't do it, and the other one says, yeah, I'm not doing that, but then he goes and does it, and he says, so which one was obedient? I'm definitely the second one. Yeah. So I do it, I just grumble and complain first.
Yeah, ditto.
Yeah, so I think Jesus just ignores that part and waits for me to get to the part where I'm obedient.
Yeah.
So he said we're going to do a podcast, and I was having my whole, like, what is that going to look like? What's that going to be like? Where am I going to find time to do that? I'm already juggling 2.5 careers.
Yeah.
3.5 careers?
Yeah.
So, right. So he sent me the way to do it. Like, literally, he just dropped it in my lap of how to do it. It was easy, and I could do it anywhere. And I already was on Instagram with Hot Mess Prayers.
So let's talk about, you say you can do it anywhere. So you record your podcast.
On my phone.
On your phone.
Yes. Through Spotify for Podcasters. It started out with Anchor, and then that changed over to Spotify for Podcasters. And I found my way there. This is actually a great story. I know we're short on time.
No, we're fine. We have plenty of time.
Okay, I'll do it fast.
We're going to run over today.
A friend of mine seemingly randomly, reached out and said, hey, I'm listening to this podcast, and I felt the Lord telling me to share it with you. And I listened to the podcast, and I was just like,
They were listening to yWrite.
This was before your time, actually.
Okay.
But it was funny because the podcast in and of itself wasn't such a big, huge deal. But during this woman's podcast, every episode she advertised how easy it was to record on Anchor. And so then when Jesus kept telling me we're doing a podcast, I said, oh, let me check out this Anchor thing.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And I can record on my phone. I can edit on my phone. Honestly, I don't even bother editing. I told people in the trailer, this is just like, it is what it is. And it's hot mess, so I'm not going back to edit things. If I sneeze or cough or a horn blows in the background, you're just going to hear it. Like, it is what it is.
It's reality.
It is. So I just started recording.
And, I think that's so important to, like, teach people. If you're going to take that moment of silence or meditation or say a prayer or whatever it is that can bring you your peace, we know that everyone's living in a hot mess life.
Yes.
So, so many times they're like, oh, I don't have time to meditate. It's too noisy in the house, or, I have a cold. And it's like, you got to just ignore those things because there'll always be something.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so what? The kids are downstairs arguing over, who put the sock in the microwave.
It's going to be like that. There's, I'm going to mess this up because I get people confused in my head, but John Wesley, who I believe started the entire Wesleyan Methodist movement, his mom had piles of children, and the story goes she would sit down in a specific chair and put her apron up over her head, and all the kids knew that's when she was praying. So she couldn't leave the room. We didn't have they didn't have technology back then. There were no baby monitors. So
but
she
just
took
the
apron over her head, and they all just knew that was her time with the Lord. Isn't that a beautiful picture?
It's beautiful.
I know.
I know. I am guilty of, I don't want to say addicted to social media, but I am one that'll get up in the morning and kind of scroll through a little, and I find such peace coming across like your Instagram, and it's under your name, Emily Harrison, and you literally just do a Bible reading. And you have this beautiful Bible, and you just show a picture of it. And I'm going to share something right now. I bought the Bible.
Oh, you did?
I did. I mean, I love the Bible that I have, but it's a creative Bible that you buy on Amazon, and you can color it in like adult coloring book.
Right. Well, there's a story to that too. So you asked about the name for the podcast. I need to back all the way up.
Okay.
One day a few years ago, my brother, who's not a Christian, doesn't have any type of relationship with the Lord. I think he believes in God, and that's about as far as he goes. He randomly said to me, after the book came out and he was trying to think of ways to get more exposure, he said, you should record prayers on Instagram. My non-Christian brother. And I thought, that's crazy. And he said, yeah, there's people that just record them. I said, I don't want to be on Instagram. I said, I don't want my little face out there. Well, and so then I was talking to a really good friend of mine, and she said, you could just call it she said, well, you're just such a hot mess. And I said, we can call it Hot Mess Prayers. So for at least a year, maybe more, I recorded them like first thing in the morning. I would flip the light on. I'd be all curled up in bed, and I would just record it. You'd see my little face like sideways, and it would just be me praying a quick prayer. And as time went on, I hated that. Like, I hated my little disheveled, like, crazy looking.
Looking like a hot mess?
Yeah, like a hot mess. And then...
I'll be a hot mess. I don't want to look like
right.
a hot mess.
And then a really good friend of mine, she gave me the Bible, this coloring Bible. Yeah. And I thought, I should color in the scriptures and then just record those and pray through those.
Beautiful.
So that's what I started doing. I'm about to end it and start a new one. I bought another one, a different version. Catholics, you guys have one Bible, I think, but Protestants, we have different versions.
There's a lot.
Are there? I don't know.
The King James, I don't know. There's a lot. I mean, they're all the same.
Yeah, they are all the same, but they have different ways of wording things.
People are all the same. We all just look a little different.
Yeah, right? So instead of the these and the thous, so I bought a more current vernacular.
Yeah, modern.
Right. And so I'm going to start coloring that one.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I had to have my knees replaced last year, so I had gotten some adult coloring books, and I really found peace. I didn't think I would. I filled like 9 coloring books.
Amazing. I love to color.
But it was a way for me to transport the pain and uncomfortability and the fact that I had to sit still into this. And, when I see your pages, it's, regular Bible, and then you have the margin where there's something to color in. And, every morning it's not even a minute long.
Oh gosh, no.
It's like
30
seconds.
I know.
So, you scroll through and all of a sudden you hear your beautiful voice. Hello, everybody. I love it. Hello, everybody. Let's pray. And she literally will read 2 or 3 lines and then have a great day.
Yep, that's it. We're done.
And it's like so simple. Just to, just to reflect, know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a good reflection moment. So, congratulations on doing the podcast, and congratulations on definitely keeping up with that.
So the Instagram is Hot Mess Prayers. Yes. That's my Instagram. It doesn't have my name. And so that's where the podcast came out of. I thought, well, I'm already on Instagram, Hot Mess Prayers. So that's where I got the idea for living your holiest hot mess life. Yeah. I feel like hot mess is just my brand now.
No, but and it makes it that everybody, people think, oh, she's, so holy, put her on a pedestal. She's got it all together. It's like, nobody's got it all together. I don't care how good anything looks. Nobody. There's a lot of work behind
everything. That's why Jesus had to come for the forgiveness of our sins, because none of us can get it right without him.
And he needed to show us that we were a hot mess.
Yes.
We're all a hot mess. Oh, gosh. So you do the podcast every week.
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. You're
prayers.
doing the prayers every
Monday
morning.
Monday through Friday.
You're teaching.
I'm counseling now.
Counseling at the school. You are preaching.
From time to time.
So in a church.
Yes.
And you're, obviously writing and sharing your passion of writing and of your faith.
Right.
So you have a lot of, like you said, 4.5 jobs here. And
I'm a wife.
And you're a wife.
And a daughter, my mother's only daughter.
Oh, wow.
I'm her only child.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely is a lot. And for people who want to write, a lot of times they'll say, I don't have time.
Oh, you can make time.
I don't have time to do that.
One of the best pieces of advice I ever got, and I'll do a shameless plug for Claire Cook. Claire Cook was a local author where I stay in the summer, and her books are hilarious. She does a whole series of books. You might have seen the movie Must Love Dogs. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So she wrote the book for that.
Oh.
And so she has a great story. That
she lives here in Massachusetts?
No, she moved to Georgia.
Okay.
But she did.
Because you're saying you
she did
spend time with her in the summer.
Right, she did. So I would go to her book talks. And, and I met her just hearing about her on a local radio station. Shout out to our local radio stations.
Yeah.
And one of the best things she said in one of her author talks was just make a commitment to 2 pages a day. Just 2 pages a day. If it takes you 20 minutes, great, you're done for the whole day. If it takes you 3 hours, fine, but you wrote 2 pages. So almost every book I've ever done has been written in 2 pages a day.
Really?
Yeah, and so now I'm actually doing a book that involves a lot of research. So there's no way for me to balance it as 2 pages a day.
Yeah.
So I kept putting it off because I had no time. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to just do 30 minutes a day. I can carve out 30 minutes every day, whether it's researching or writing or whatever I'm doing. So Monday through Friday, I do 30 minutes a day, and that means if I miss something, then on Saturday I can make it up. So so this week I missed Monday and Tuesday, my 30 minutes, because I was working on a sermon, and that was time sensitive. I had to get that done.
But I'm gonna say you were writing.
I was, but not for this book that has a deadline.
Right, but you're still making your commitment to write 30 minutes a day.
Yeah, and it was actually more than 30 minutes a day because I had to get the sermon
done. And we
done.
have to prioritize.
Absolutely. But I know, so I talked to my husband, I said, I owe an hour towards this writing, so I'm going to make it up by 45 minutes today, 45 minutes tomorrow, and then just keep doing it a little bit at a time. And even if I do 15 minutes here and 15 minutes there, at some point I'm going to get my 2.5 hours a week done.
Yeah.
And it's so manageable to do it like that.
I mean, I've had times, I think I had like a 6-month period where I just did 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I will write fast and furious for those 10 minutes because you want to get it down. Yeah. And I find that I can tell the story pretty quick that way. Right. However, then when I go to edit it, it gets longer. And I have a one whole, I love it when you have like a journal and you fill it, and I remember like getting to the end of that and I was like, wow, I'm at the end. Like, I don't want to be at the end. And so then the next time I did it, I actually wrote down what I wanted to write about. And some of them were memories, like, oh, I want to write about, I don't know, the time I won an award on a stage because I just did that last week.
That's exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah, I got in the top 3 at a Story Slam contest.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Very exciting. So, but like to say, for me to write that experience down and then, okay, today I'm going to sit down for 10 minutes and then go down the list. I'm going to write that.
Yep.
And that was helpful because when I was I'm working on a book right now and that's how I did. I wrote down like what I wanted to put in, and then some days I would just be like, which one do I want to write today?
Yeah. I've done that before. It's interesting that you said that because that's been my process with certain books. I'm like, how am I going to do that? And even when writing a sermon, if I don't have a good chunk of time to sit down and work on it, I'll jot a bunch of notes down and be like, okay, which aspect do I want to work on today?
Yes.
And it gets done.
Yeah, and so, again, for people who want to write a story, who have that story in their head, whether it's a memoir or that, great American next fictional bestseller,
or self-help.
Or self-help. Self-help books are huge. Encouragement. It doesn't take a lot of time. Research books, different
This is taking me forever.
Different story.
Forever.
And even when I did April Rain, I did a lot of research on that. Like I had to, research what an autopsy scene was, and it was like I wanted it to sound authentic. So, it does take time and, it feels like you're in school a little because you're taking notes.
Yeah. I feel like I'm writing a dissertation.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, why am I learning all this?
Right.
And then I had to look up legal stuff and I kept saying, I'm not a lawyer. Like, why do I need to know this stuff? I'm just writing a story.
But it makes it better.
And then, if anyone looks at my history of searches, can you transport a body over state lines? What? That's not what I want to be Googling,
Right.
you know? So, well, you know, I'm so glad you came in.
Thank you.
We
I'm
could,
so glad you
we could
invited
just
me.
talk about this forever.
know.
It's just never ending. Teaching Through the Tough Times. Where can we find this book?
So you can find the book on Amazon. It is in paper copy and electronic copy. And if you only want a paper copy, then you can contact me through Instagram, Hot Mess Prayers, and I can get you a paper copy.
Yeah, it is Teaching Through the Tough Times, devotion, prayers, and scriptures for today's educators and you. You know, whether you're an educator, a teacher, a student, I mean,
It's for
you know,
anybody.
it's for anybody. And, you know, you'll definitely hear her voice in the personal stories and even learn, you know, like what made her think about, oh, you know what, I was thinking about the superintendent of schools today and I'm going to just say a little prayer for him because we all need prayers.
We all need prayers. And there's actually on Amazon, there's a 10-year anniversary edition too,
Oh.
along with a bunch of other books I've written.
Yeah, so it's been 10 years since this has been out.
It's been more than 10 years now.
Well, I'm going to put the link below with all of your books so that
okay.
people can see them all. And I wanted to, you know, I mean, if you want to tell us a couple titles of them too, that's...
Oh my goodness.
I had to pick one to talk about,
Yeah.
so this is the one I had to talk about.
We'll stick with that one for now. There's
Oh.
so many. I couldn't just, It's like having kids. You can't just pick one or two kids you want to talk about.
Well,
so
maybe you'll have to come back on again and we'll talk about a different one. Or the upcoming one you're doing.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, because now you have our curious, wandering minds going, what is she writing this time?
It's a book that someone else asked me to write. It's about education.
Nice.
It's nonfiction. And it is really just talking about how it's been hundreds of years and the system's still incredibly broken. And we're doing a horrible disservice to our children across the entire country. So why are we not fixing it?
You know, and in this book, you do talk about how using prayer, even in your own life, really changed your classroom environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, I'm buying another copy from you today because I have a friend who, you know, is becoming a teacher, and I'm just like, this is a good gift for them to have, you know, because it just empowers you. So
It does. Absolutely.
thank you for
Oh my
coming
goodness,
in.
Angela, thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Go to Amazon, buy her books, and all right, I will see you soon, and I'm going to get over to the church where you're preaching because I want to check that out
I would
too.
love that. You're always
And
welcome.
I love seeing you or hearing your voice every morning when I wake up
Praise God.
because I am also living a hot, holy mess life, and it resonates. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I want to thank you, the audience. Thank you so much for tuning in today to this fun episode where we get to share, you know, writing and faith and listening to that voice that calls you to write and finding out, you know, that making a podcast isn't that hard. Okay, I'm going to say it's hard because, you know, I'm doing it. It's not easy. It's a hot mess sometimes. But you know what? There's so many different ways for you to share your story. So I want you to, you know, really consider the things that Emily and I talked about today about how you can sit down and start getting your story on paper. So this is the point of the show where I want you to pick up your pen as soon as the show ends, and you're going to write for about 5 minutes. And today I'm going to give you this writing prompt, and what I want you to do is write a letter or a prayer thanking the universe, thanking God, thanking Lord Jesus, thanking your mother, whoever you want to do. Write that prayer, write that thank you out, and just, you know, feel the love in there. And I will see you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in to yWrite. Have a great day.